Hi, everyone. It's great to have you back. I am very proud to introduce you to my other working group lead. It is Nick Trelia. He is an awesome professional. He's been a colleague and a friend for many years now, and he comes from a vast background and decades of aviation experience. He was a retired naval aviator after 20 years flying helos and fixed wing, uh, and then into the government contracting arena as an aviator. Has many, many hours of flight instruction and has spent the last 8 years specifically in loss control and flight mitigation as a UPRT instructor, not only teaching in all envelope or aerobatic aircraft, but giving academics and simulator based UPRT as well. And he's a 4-time master CFI. So please, if you would, welcome Nick. And Nick, it's great to see you. And thanks for leading this group, by the way. And she's all yours.
All right. Thank you very much, Otter. Very glad to be here. And so let's get started. I'd like to start with welcoming you, everyone, to our government military working group. And like everyone, our purpose here is to identify the needs and challenges of the community that we're going to specialize in is going to be government and military aviation. And look and see if we can help develop coordinated and effective solutions to really enhance the UPRT and the overall readiness. A couple of challenges. We think of military aviation really as the gold standard, and in fact is, and well-funded. You might think compared to small flight schools and things, but they truly do have their own budget constraints. Culturally, there's some training things that we might want to look at, places where we could improve also, where good enough justification is there, and they've had limited scrutiny because it's pretty isolated from the broader aviation community. We're also going to see, and I'll give you a couple of short examples, that we do have in the military a legacy culture. It's come a long way, but in terms of the all-attitude culture and like a lot of institutions, it's resistant to change. Maybe unique in military aviation, a lot of our instructor pilots active duty will go through their tours. They'll spend 3 years instructing, then go on out, either move on and up or out. And so they may not come back to instruction. So the depth of knowledge and the depth of experience, the great guys experience, but that knowledge base isn't as extensive as what you'll see in civil aviation. Military aviators, the world's greatest, most skilled, just ask them, all right? And they certainly are and have a great all attitude and full background and foundation. Both the Air Force and the Navy do have fundamentals of flying, all attitude flight, including spins and basic aerobatics. Army fixed wing aviation, they do the fundamentals, and they've had for several years now an abbreviated UPRT program, and they made great strides in that too. We know that all this is important, and we look at the military as the gold standard, and realizing that in civil aviation outside of CFIs, nobody's had to have a spin requirement since 1949. So they do have a leg up there. But military pilot training still does have some legacy stall recovery techniques, which don't really prepare pilots for real world scenarios. In the Air Force, undergraduate pilot training, UPT, to recover from a stall, you'd hear max, relax, and roll, fly away. The recovery emphasizes simultaneous and immediate power application, which in real life, and especially in a transport aircraft, could aggravate a stall. And we know that in a stall, that the stall is primarily an angle of attack problem. They're not using an angle of attack solution to resolve that and mitigate that threat. See in naval aviation, maybe a little bit better, relax, max, level ball. And a lot of flight schools teach the relaxed back pressure for stall recovery. In that, we would trim the aircraft a few knots above a predetermined stall speed and enter the maneuver. And at the recovery, if you just relax back pressure, the aircraft's trimmed to recover. Well, that's a training artificiality. We could even call it a training scar. And it's not really going to prepare the pilots to handle real world stalls, especially with the autopilot engaged, where it may take a true push against resistance on the yoke to recover the aircraft. Implication, these two legacy recoveries They're safe and they have their place in training. And again, to mitigate a training risk, but it really limits the effectiveness of the stall and upset recovery training, increasing the loss of control in flight risk. Military pilots still recover those legacy training, talked about those. Safe for training, but less effective in real world scenarios, especially with autopilot engaged. Basic familiarization evaluation. Another thing we see in military aviation is we're looking at candidates, we're screening candidates. And example, we do basic aerobatics. These aerobatics are not taught to a competitive aerobatic standard. They're not precision aerobatics. They may not even help with developing a lot of all orientation, but it's to look for aptitude and ability to be trained. And the implication is pilots leave training with awareness and evaluation experience that's not necessarily transferable to real world upsets. Government pilots, another significant group, but a much more diverse group in terms of experience base. From highly experienced formal military aviators, even down to low-time single-engine pilots with limited experience outside of training programs who are there to build some time. A much broader experience range and certainly less homogeneous than what we'd expect from military pilots. Challenges, well, loss of control in flight. For government, again, loss of control in flight is relatively rare, but it does account for a disproportionate number of fatalities. And these high-risk scenarios involve aerodynamic upsets, unusual attitudes, or stall spins for military and for government also. Even most skilled aviators are vulnerable without specialized upset training. And kind of taking a look at that. We see Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, Army, all services averaged out. The percentage of mishaps, lost control in flight, and then percentage of mishaps, lost control in flight, and where the representation of fatal mishaps is that lost control in flight is about 1.45, 1.5 times more likely an event to be fatal. And overall, the fatalities are going to be concentrated in that loss of control in flight. The official statistics for loss of control in flight, especially in the military, we're seeing it's about 1/4 of all mishaps, but I believe the true figure is almost certainly higher. Loss of control in flight is sequenced or often coded as CFIT, weather, systems failures, masking their true loss of control in flight origin. When these hidden cases are included, loss of control in flight and its variant may represent nearly half of all fatal military aviation mishaps, underscoring the disproportionate lethality of loss control in flight and the need for focused prevention. Here we can see the National Transportation Safety Board. It does give us data for military, for civil aviation incidents. They cover civil operators, commercial in general, but they don't particularly pick out the government air services that we really want to look at. So there's no easily available public database. But it is reasonable to assume that the non-DoD U.S. government aviation mishaps, particularly those that do involve loss of control in flight, are going to mirror civil and commercial trends. And from 2020 to 2024, for global commercial aviation data, what we've got is that the loss control in flight will account for 40% of fatal accidents, despite representing only about 5% of all accidents. Our goals, what we're looking to do in 2026 with the working group is really to establish rapport with the government military branch leadership, safety center leadership also, and for all the armed services, and for the federal government. We're looking for Homeland Security, Coast Guard, FBI, Department of Agriculture, state and local government, flight departments too. We're getting a lot of aviators, and it's a large group we'd really like to reach out to. Our objectives, once again, to educate and assist government and military aviation organizations developing an ICAO-aligned UPRT with guidance from, say, the document 111, advise and support the development and adaptation of UPRT programs and courseware, and foster internal capability or capacity to design and sustain organizational specific UPRT materials. We have to collaborate with service and government safety centers to align mishap taxonomy and reporting practices. Again, we believe there's a lot of unreported loss control in flight. Promote the dissemination of upset. Our team, got our contact information here, and we do highly recommend reach out to us. We'd be happy to talk to you. Got some great people here with a lot of experience, a lot of military training experience, and a lot of overall aviation experience. These guys are great. At that point, what I'd like to say is it's been a pleasure to reach out to you. And at the appropriate time, I really look forward to later in this event to answer some of your questions. And thank you very much for your time.